There's usually two types of people. There's the people, and I fit under this first category, especially in high school, of work was the only thing you could do. It felt like if you did anything else, you were wasting your time or not committing as much to education as you should be. Then the other extreme are the people who suffer from FOMO or fear of missing out, the people who are always going to the events, always going to, and I don't mean going to events is a bad thing. I'm talking about the people who pretty much never set aside any time to study or get work done. But I think that the better way of doing that is neither of those. Kind of a happy medium is the best place to be, and that essentially is work-life balance, which is what I'm going to get into in this video of how you can have work-life balance even in college. Everyone wants to talk about work-life balance once you've graduated or as they're preparing for your graduation. Few people want to talk about work-life balance or think to talk about work-life balance while you're in school. In general, when I talk about college, a lot of those attitudes and habits that you set up there can set you up really well for success after college, because you're not going to have to relearn everything completely over. You've kind of already been building those habits little by little, and it's not such a whiplash when you get into the workplace. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that this is helpful in figuring out how you can kind of move towards healthier habits and a better work-life balance within college or high school, if you're in high school. Hello, welcome. The first tip that I would have is more about planning your time and being more intentional. And a lot of people will kind of schedule their study hours and then they'll try to fit in social events around that. But a lot of people get frustrated because maybe your friends aren't free during those hours that you're making for activities. And I struggled with this personally, is I'd be like, I'm going to do homework from here to here. But sometimes those here to here times are when my friends were wanting to hang out, and so I would be studying when they wanted to hang out, and then I'd be free when they were studying. So you just kind of miss out. So the way that I would recommend doing it, instead, plan your social events and hangouts and things like that, and then figure out your homework around that. Obviously, you'll have to be a little bit more intentional about what events you pick and choose, but this honestly gives you a little bit more motivation for when you are studying, because you know you have something to look forward to. Plan your social events and then work your homework around that, and you're gonna be a lot more motivated and determined to get that done so you don't have the weight of homework in your face, you know? So kind of hand in hand with that is being okay to say no to some events. Kind of like what I talked about earlier, some people, especially earlier on in college, have this fear of missing out. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, you kind of got to get over that. There's always going to be events going on. There's always going to be something that might be more fun. And honestly, that's going to be true in the work life as well. It's better to realize that you need to prioritize things sometimes in order to do the things that you want to do. So for example, let's say you and your friends are going to do a road trip on the weekend. Maybe that means throughout the week you can't go to other events that you may have wanted to or may have been invited to. It's okay to say no to those, to look forward to the things that you have planned and prioritize. And again, that's going to set you up well when you have family events that you want to prioritize, your friends are doing something. There's always going to be various things pulling you. So it's important to prioritize the friend time and socialization, various things like that, hand in hand with making sure you're getting your work done. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm against spontaneity. I think that also should be accounted for. So, for example, let's say your friend just runs up to you randomly in the day and was like, I want to go get coffee. Maybe you had, again, planned that you were going to have an event that night, so you were going to do homework around that time. That doesn't mean every time someone invites you to do something spontaneous that you have to say, no, sorry, I'm doing homework right now. What I would encourage you to do is kind of plan that into your homework scheduling. I'm going to do a full video about how to schedule kind of your classwork, but essentially, let's say, for example, you have a paper due in 3 weeks. So if you have little bits planned throughout those 3 weeks, it's going to be a little bit more flexible versus if it's due the next day and someone wants to do something spontaneous with you, you're not going to have really much room to budge unless you sacrifice that paper. So the best way to do that is, again, kind of plan things in a more, like, stretch assignments out a little bit further so that you're doing little bits each day of things instead of having a huge thing to do in one day and finding yourself having to say no to the more spontaneous things because you get bogged down at the last minute with assignments. A simple way to implement that into your day-to-day life is setting 3 to 5 feasible goals regarding school. So I have an example of what I might do for my goals in a day. And the 4 things that I would have set were: 1, choose a paper topic; 2, read assignment; 3, find some sources for research paper; and 4, post a discussion and make responses. So those are all things that can be done usually in an hour or less, sometimes a little bit more depending on what the assignment is, but they're very feasible, tangible. You can cross them off your list and not have to worry about a huge amount of work. My next idea would be using meals for socialization. It's a great time to spend time with friends. You already have to take a break essentially when you're eating. I don't know about you, but I never really felt like I could read something and do other things while I ate. I always tried. This was something that I constantly was attempting to do, but it never worked. So I would encourage you to use that time to spend time with friends, because what else are you going to do? It's not going to be a very productive time anyways, so you may as well use that time that's already technically set aside for life versus work and make it more enjoyable and more of a social activity. In that work-life balance, like, conversation, people always encourage me to find one day a week to not do homework. I personally always struggled with this, and I don't think I ever really did a very good job. There was one time that my friend told me we're going on like a 3-day fall break, and she did not let me bring my homework or planner. I wasn't allowed to think about school, do school, and that was really good for me. So I would encourage you, if you can, to try to get at least one day a week to not do anything school related. So socialization, giving some time for yourself, taking care of yourself, cleaning your room, doing things to just prepare yourself for the next week ahead. My next suggestion would be, within your work-life balance, sometimes you say you're going to sit down and do homework, and you sit there and you procrastinate, you scroll on Facebook, you watch YouTube videos, maybe that's what you're doing right now, but you're doing a lot of different things, and so once you finish that time, you feel like you've dedicated a lot of time to school because that's what that time was for. But in reality, you haven't accomplished anything. So to kind of combat that, I would recommend finding things that work for you. So for example, I did research papers best in the library. I would sit down and I'd write and I'd knock them out. And that was a way for me to really focus and get stuff done. For online classes, for watching videos and for doing posts and things like that, I prefer to be in my room, kind of make it a nice setting, and I would do things there. For reading assignments, I liked to kind of switch it up. I like to either be sitting outside, sitting on the couch, sitting on my bed, just kind of finding new ways to keep your work fresh and keep productive, because if you are planning for fun events around your homework, if you're planning your homework around your fun events, you want to make sure the time that you are spending on homework is productive. So one thing that I always struggled with is occasionally I would want to study with friends, but I was never productive when I studied with friends, because in my mind, friend time was not study time. And so I would be distracted, I would be doing other things, and I never was a very good group study partner. So just kind of know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and kind of just create an environment to get things done that is productive and enjoyable for you, because it'll make you feel good and it'll make you want to get stuff done. And who knows, you might get stuff done faster. Also, can we just take a moment? It is so sunny right now. I'm loving the sunshine. So kind of along those lines, like I was saying earlier, if you are doing homework for 2 or 3 hours, I would not suggest you sit down and plan to just work the whole time straight. I personally would not stay motivated if I was trying to do something that long and that intense. what I would personally recommend doing is kind of break up your homework assignments. So again, I really like to take bigger goals and knock them down into smaller pieces because, at least for me, it's much more productive. I feel like I can knock things out quicker. I'm more motivated to get those done because I can see myself like, oh, this takes this chunk of time. It's much more manageable. So yeah, essentially figure out ways to reward yourself, whether it be stretching or going on a short walk, getting yourself a cup of tea or a coffee, a 5-minute Instagram scroll, something to give yourself something to look forward to, even amidst the 3-hour time span. But don't go a little bit too crazy on that because very easily you could go down a rabbit trail, and it's important to keep that homework time productive, but taking small breaks can often make it more productive instead of staring at the same page and being like, I hate my life, which is how I would feel if I didn't give myself some things to look forward to or give myself a chance to kind of stop every once in a while, because we're not machines and it just often doesn't work that way. My next suggestion is honestly pretty straightforward, and you probably hear it a lot, but it seriously is so important. Prioritize your sleep. I know so many people in college who had multiple all-nighters because they procrastinated on paper, so they had to do it all in one night, or because they were out all night partying, all this kind of stuff. I did not have a single all-nighter in college. Maybe I'm weird, maybe I missed out, I really don't know. But what I do know is when I prioritized my sleep, I always felt better. I could pay attention better in classes, my homework time was more productive, and honestly, don't feel bad if you have to take some naps. College is the greatest time to do that because when you go to work 9 to 5, you can't take naps in that time span. So take advantage of that, because I loved the 30-minute nap between study sessions or between different activities. It was just like so refreshing. So if you are the kind of person who enjoys naps, enjoy it. So this last piece of advice actually comes from my husband. I would not have thought of this one, so Andrew bonus. What he told me was knowing yourself and like what mood you're in and playing to that. So for example, there are times in college when you just find yourself kind of at a place of, what am I going to do? And usually in those instances, people either will try to find friends, they will try to kind of distract themselves, watch a video, go to social media, do something like that. What he was saying is in those times when you're essentially bored and don't really know what to do, in those moments, ask yourself, could I do homework right now? Like, would I hate it that much? And no one usually sits down and goes, I'm so excited to do homework. But in those instances, if you aren't completely appalled by the idea of doing homework, maybe get something done. Because more often than not, like if you get something done in that time, then maybe you've opened up opportunity to do something later in the day or something like that. Because if there's nothing coming to mind immediately and friends aren't available right then and there, then use that time to be productive and you will thank yourself later. And the 3 to 5 goals that I give, if you finish those and you're still kind of on a roll and you don't have plans, I would encourage you to kind of keep going. If you have more things you can get done, again, the more you can kind of cross off that list, the more space you open up in your future. There was often times that at the end of the semester, I would finish like all my assignments except for exams approximately 2 to 3 weeks before my finals. So all my friends were busy trying to like crunch and get all of their homework done along with study for exams. I had a much lighter load, and it was because of things like that, of taking things slow, prioritizing 3 to 5 goals a day, and then always trying to, you know, if you are kind of already productive and getting going, then that starts to feel good and you can look maybe, oh, well, tomorrow I was planning on doing this, why don't I just do that now? So just kind of think ahead, and again, you'll have a little bit more of work-life balance. Those social events are planned, but at the same time, you're not just wasting time when you do find yourself free. If you are in that situation and your mood is, I cannot do homework right now, you be the spontaneous friend. Go tell your friend, let's go get a cup of coffee, let's go do that. So honestly, those times were when I felt like that, I would go into my living room with a homework book or something. I lived in like a quad my senior year, and so there was 3 rooms with a shared living room, and in those times that I didn't have that much to do, I'd sit there and do some like reading homework. And if my friends came in, it was such a great time to kind of spontaneously watch movies together or just do something fun, cook together. And that just always was really enjoyable. So again, having that work-life balance really makes a huge difference. If you set those habits in college, then once you get into the workforce, you'll already have the habits built in a place that really the separation isn't super clear. So basically, if you can master work-life balance while in college, then you're set up pretty darn well for once you get into the workplace. I hope this video was helpful. This kind of content would have been honestly pretty helpful for me, especially in high school, because I basically had no life since school was the only thing I could dedicate my time to. That's how I felt. So I hope this is helpful for you, whether you're either side of the spectrum, whether you are the one who has FOMO and is going to all the events, or you were like me and felt like you couldn't go to anything. I hope this helps kind of create a little bit more balance for you. And again, if you are the one who is like me, always feeling you have to study, I hope this helps encourage you to make sure you are prioritizing those friendships, because they really are important and you do not want to leave college having not made any friends or made memories. So get all you can out of your college education and set up great habits for the future. Invest in friendships, and I will see you in the next time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and push that bell so you do not miss any future videos. And I hope to see you in the next video.